I arrived early, thinking the tide would still be low and the beach mostly empty. That was the plan: 2 days of quiet, salt air, and sleep that didn't require explanation. I hadn't announced myself. I didn't think I needed to. The house had been mine long before it became anyone else's weekend escape. The driveway was full. Not just one unfamiliar car, but several, angled carelessly, as if they'd arrived with certainty. Luggage sat near the steps. A cooler leaned against the railing. From inside came the sound of music I didn't recognize and laughter that carried the confidence of people who believed they belonged. I stood there longer than necessary, keys still in my hand. When I finally walked in, the room went momentarily still. Not silent, just that brief pause where people register an interruption. My daughter-in-law looked up from the kitchen island. She didn't look surprised. She looked inconvenienced. She said it lightly, almost conversationally, not bothering to lower her voice. Something about an old leech showing up, about there being no room. It landed the way careless words often do, without intention, but with precision. I smiled. Not tightly, not performatively, just enough to signal that I had heard her and was choosing something else. "It's okay, dear," I said. And then I set my bag down and left. I drove to the far end of the beach and parked where the dunes began to thin. I sat there with the engine off, listening to the wind work its way through the grass. The initial sting faded quickly. What remained was quieter and heavier, a recognition I'd been avoiding for years. This wasn't about the house. It wasn't even about her. It was about how easily I had been edited out of spaces I once held together. How often my presence had become optional in other people's comfort. I didn't cry. I didn't rehearse arguments. I opened my phone and made one call. The property management company answered on the second ring. They always did. I confirmed a few details: ownership, access, current occupants. My name still carried weight there. Not emotional weight, administrative weight. The kind that shows up on documents and contracts and doesn't care about tone. I sent one email after that. Brief. Polite, attaching what needed attaching. Then I waited. Back at the house, the day continued without me. They grilled, they drank. They posted photos. The beach looked full from the outside, like a gathering that had always been meant to happen. I imagined my daughter-in-law moving through the rooms with authority, directing cousins and siblings, explaining which bedroom was best, which drawer held extra towels. By late afternoon, something shifted. The music stopped, a car left and returned. Voices lowered, questions started circulating, though I wasn't there to hear them. The certainty thinned. Comfort turned brittle. Just before sunset, a representative from the management company arrived. Neutral expression. Tablet in hand. No raised voice. No drama. Just procedure. There had been a misunderstanding about authorization. About guest limits. About who had standing permission and who did not. The explanation was calm, almost boring. That was what made it effective. My daughter-in-law argued briefly, then stopped. Not because she was convinced, but because she recognized authority she couldn't negotiate with. The kind that doesn't need to humiliate to be obeyed. I returned after dark. The house felt smaller. Bags were half-packed. Conversations were clipped, unfinished. She avoided looking at me, then looked anyway, searching for something: triumph, maybe, or accusation. I offered neither. I took the smallest bedroom, the one closest to the back door. I didn't reclaim space, I occupied it. There's a difference. No one apologized. I hadn't expected them to. Apologies are emotional gestures, and this had never been an emotional correction. It was structural. The next morning, the family left earlier than planned. Polite goodbyes, tight smiles. My daughter-in-law hugged me briefly, stiffly, as if unsure whether affection was still appropriate. I watched their cars disappear down the road and felt something like relief, but muted. Not joy. Not vindication. Just the quiet satisfaction of standing where I had always stood, without needing permission. I spent the rest of the day alone. I fixed a broken hinge. I sat on the porch and let the tide come in. The house settled around me, familiar and indifferent. I knew the relationship had changed. Power, once revealed, doesn't disappear again. It just goes quiet. And quiet, I had learned, was enough.